It's February 22nd, 2024, at the University of Georgia, in Athens, Georgia. The exact location is an apartment complex where students live, which is located right next to a wooded area that many people use for trail running and exercise. The time is 7:01 a.m., and a female student, whose name I'll keep withheld, is living within these apartments. She's starting out her morning, as she normally does, opening her windows to let light into the dark dwelling, and jumping in the shower. On screen now is footage taken from a trail camera that covers the area where this student lives. As you can see, there is a man wearing a hoodie, a black cap, and holding a white cup. He wanders around the general location, not interacting with anyone for approximately an hour. The man moves back and forth around a bus stop, the apartment complex itself, and at times, he approaches the front door where the before-mentioned student lives. As he does this, the student recalls hearing strange noises outside of her apartment.
I was in the shower and I heard somebody trying to open my door. And initially I thought it was coming from upstairs, but when I stepped out of the bathroom, I noticed that it was coming from my front door. When I went to see who it was, I saw someone through the peephole trying to open it. The person had a black hood, black hat, black jacket, and black gloves, but I could not see the person's face. So the moment I said, "Hello, who is it?" they ducked down, I think to avoid being seen through the peephole. I saw them bending and walking away. I went to pick up my phone from the bedroom and I came back to the door again and then tried calling for help, which is when I turned around and looked at the window and I noticed someone there. Then I could see them trying to look inside.
Using the trail camera, this man can be observed approaching the student's door a total of 6 times. 2 of those occasions, it appears he was trying to open the door. 911 is contacted, and an officer quickly arrives.
I got the call at 7:59 in the morning, and I arrived on scene at approximately 8:06 in the morning. I was the initial responding officer getting information from her. We had other units around the area searching for a potential suspect going on from there. The call came out as an individual jiggling the door handle, and that individual looking through the window and left the area. So a male of an unknown race with a black jacket and a black cap. She didn't give any other details because she stated he was crouching down at the door when she looked through.
The person in question isn't located, and after searching the area for approximately an hour, officers leave. It's around this time, in a nearby student dwelling, another young woman begins her day. Her name is Laken Riley, a 22-year-old nursing student. She lives with her 3 roommates, Lily, Connolly, and Sophia, and they describe their relationship to one another as family. They would have family dinners, movie nights, and were a very tight-knit group of friends. On this morning, Laken had woken up and decided to go for a run, as she usually did, on a trail near her home. At 9:03 a.m., Laken messages her mother, informing her that she's going for this run, and she'd like to have a phone call. Laken grabs her AirPods, and then heads out for the run. She can be seen on Ring camera exiting her house, and then she can be observed jogging down the road with her phone in hand. And once more, she can be spotted again on the trail camera we were looking at before. Laken is there, entering the wooded area where the trail is. At 9:11 a.m., a strange 911 call is placed, and it comes from Laken's phone number.
Clark County 911. Hello, this is Clark County 911. Hello, Clark County 911. Can anyone hear me? Clark County 911.
The call abruptly cuts off from Laken's end, and when 911 try to call back, there is no answer. Shortly after this, Laken's mother tries to call her daughter, but no one answers. She tries to call and message numerous times, but Laken isn't responding to anything. Confused and worried, because this is not like her daughter at all to not reply, Laken's mother contacts the roommates and asks if any of them know where her daughter is. Laken and her roommates all shared their location with one another using an app, and upon investigating where their friend might be, the roommates discover that Laken's location is around halfway through the trail that she usually runs. The roommates feel, at this time, that everything is okay, but after an hour passes, they start to get worried.
I got home from my first set of errands, and I saw that Laken still wasn't home. That wasn't unusual because it was only about an hour after I checked her first location, so I thought maybe she was just still on a run. Checked it a second time around 10:45, I believe. That's a rough estimate. And I saw that it was in the same location. That did raise some concerns. So I texted Laken and just was checking in on her, and then addressing Connolly in a group message, I said, she's been in the woods a while. So I immediately pulled in and I saw Sophia standing outside with her dog. And I got out of the car and she just immediately said, can we go look for Laken?
I grabbed my dog and I decided to check her location on Find My iPhone, and then got my dog on his leash and started heading out to go towards her location. We walked down the trail that was like off the road, so it took us about no more than 15 minutes, I would say maybe 10, to get to where we got.
Sophia was a little bit more familiar with the trail. We walked down using her knowledge of the path that Laken would usually take on a run. And then when we got a little bit closer, we were using the Find My Friends app to kind of go directly to where her location was until we were standing kind of right around it. When we were walking, Sophia noticed a lone AirPod that was sitting on the trail kind of right around where her location was, and she picked it up, kind of assuming that it was Laken's.
She always had a little bit more wax on her AirPods, so I noticed the earwax. I picked it up and I turned around to Lily and I told her we were going to walk back to call the police because we both didn't have service.
That day there was an AT&T service outage, so I did not have service if I was not connected to the Wi-Fi at my house. So if I left the house, I was not able to communicate or receive any communication. It wasn't shortly after that we got home that I called 911.
Hi, we're calling because our roommate went out for a run at 9 and we haven't heard from her, and we all just got like service back, so we don't think it has anything to do with the outage. We went to go look to where her last location was, and all we found was an AirPod.
Okay, have you tried calling her since she just got service back?
Yes, we've been, yes.
Do you know if she has class or anything at this point?
She has a class at 1, so that's her nursing. That's the nursing school, and she does not miss class.
How did you get her last known location? Was it from her phone?
Yes, it was updating, so that's why we're a little confused. But we didn't see her phone up anywhere when we left. But she hasn't moved for almost 3.5 hours now.
Okay, we've got officers on the way, all right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Police respond within 5 minutes of the call and begin searching the trail where Laken's last known location was. About half an hour passes, and it's at 12:37 p.m. when an officer spots Laken lying on the ground approximately 65 feet off of the trail and into the woods. There is body cam associated with this moment, but the video is not available, only audio.
Oh shit. To the university, I found it. Ma'am. Oh. I need EMS immediately to the location where the phone pinged. Ma'am. She's down, she's not breathing. Potentially been attacked. Starting CPR now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 27, 28, 29, 30. I'm not getting any pulse. She's stiff. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 29, 30. Yeah, that's what you was at. 1, 2, go back. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 16, 17. Take over. Looks like blunt force trauma to the head or shirts has been removed above her breast. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
We continue to rotate back and forth between AED instructions and giving compressions. During this time, Athens Clarke County Fire Department will have shown up as well. It appeared that her clothing, at least her shirt, had been removed to up above her breast. It did not look as if something had like intentionally or unintentionally happened, as if somebody falls and has a wardrobe malfunction. It looked more intentional, as if somebody had attempted to either remove her top or maybe had used it to drag her. She was laying slightly on her side, and it appeared that she had some leaves and other vegetation that had been placed on top of her. She had on a pair of running leggings, and it looked like in the front side, her underwear was bunched up towards the top end. So at that point, I suspected that this wasn't an accident based on the circumstances of which she had been found. So I started communicating with Sergeant Epps that we need to begin setting up a perimeter to preserve any evidence because I believe the crime had occurred.
When Laken was found, her body was covered in leaves and other foliage. She is cold to the touch, and there are visible injuries to her head. She was wearing 3 layers of tight upper body clothing, which were all pulled up to her neck, and her tight leggings looked like there was an attempt to remove them. Despite emergency services' best efforts, Laken is unable to be revived. A sexual assault kit indicates that no male DNA is present, but her underwear was forcibly torn. The medical examiner observes that Laken had sustained a complex depressed skull fracture. She had 8 lacerations to her head, a small subarachnoid hemorrhage, and multiple abrasions to her face, neck, and torso. Petechiae was also found in both of her eyes. The cause of death is said as blunt force trauma to the head and asphyxiation. An investigation commences immediately, and law enforcement begin looking around for any clues as to what may have happened. In the surrounding area, another airport is located, along with 2 rocks that have blood on them, and a tree that also has blood markings on it. Later on in the night, as the search continued, Laken's phone is also discovered, quite a distance away from where her body had been found. By 9 p.m. at night, police have no leads other than the Peeping Tom incident caught on trail camera, which occurred earlier that day, and the best description of the suspect they have is a male wearing a hoodie and a black cap. With the hopes to find anything that can help them, law enforcement start dumpster diving and investigate every single trash can and dumpster they can find within the area. It's 9:58 p.m. and dumpsters at an apartment complex quite close to the trail are being searched. It's here that officers find quite a suspicious jacket.
Oh, shit. There's hair on the buttons, ripped up sleeves. Women's long hair wrapped up in the buttons.
The jacket found has hair wrapped around one of the buttons and blood stains across the front of it. It's sent to the lab for testing. As officers were looking at the area where this dumpster is located, they notice, on the house across the street, a security camera pointed right at them. Wondering if this may have captured anything, the residents are asked if they could provide the camera's footage. They agree, and the footage is reviewed. What they see from this camera is that at 9:43 a.m., the same day of Laken's murder, an individual wearing the clothing that fits the description of the suspect in the Peeping Tom incident can be observed throwing a jacket into the dumpster. Then he removes something from his pocket and discards that in the bushes nearby. When the bushes are searched, law enforcement uncover 3 black disposable kitchen gloves. One, notably, had a big hole in the thumb. A screenshot of the suspect taken from the dumpster disposal video is created and enhanced. Then law enforcement begin circulating this image throughout the community, urging people to come forward with any information regarding who this man may be. Although lots of calls are made where people are attempting to help identify this man, no leads that amount to anything of substance comes in. The next morning though, a lucky break. At 8:22 a.m, officers are once again out in the area where the jacket was located, conducting interviews. As they're doing this, they spot someone walking by them who appears to be wearing a cap that looks very similar to the one they're looking for. They stop this man to ask some questions, and they learn that his name is Diego Ibarra.
How would you describe Diego Ibarra's demeanor with you and with you?
I mean, he's compliant. He's not posing any issues. Obviously, there's a block there through communication, but based off his physical mannerisms, I'm not really getting any deceptive behavior per se. I was aware at this point he did provide a fake green card, so he was detained for that.
Right.
He seemed to understand that we were detaining him for an investigative purpose. There appeared to be good rapport between him and officers.
As you heard, Diego is detained for having a fake green card. It had listed 2 different birthdays for him, which is what led law enforcement to question the legitimacy of the document. Diego is incredibly cooperative, and he leads officers back to his home. It's here they continue to question him, based on the fact that he was wearing a hat which appeared to be identical to the one seen on camera from the day before. Physically, he also appeared to have the same build as the man they're looking for, and, somewhat alarming, was the fact that this apartment where he lived was a short 10-minute walk to the scene of the crime. When they found Diego, he was actually walking in the direction of the crime scene. Officers consider the possibility that they may have their suspect in front of them. When they get to his home, it's learned that there are 4 other individuals living there with Diego. Communication is difficult though, as the man doesn't speak much English, so Spanish-speaking officers are called in to help translate. As the questioning continues, the officers search Diego, and they don't see anything along the lines of injuries on any parts of his arms, upper body, neck or legs. Law enforcement learn that none of the individuals living in this apartment were legal immigrants, and after asking one of the men who lived there if they could enter the premises and look around, he agrees, and the place is searched. Whilst searching the inside of the house, a man named Jose Ibarra, Diego's brother, is found sleeping in his bed. He's woken up and taken outside with the others.
The person named Jose Ibarra, did you question him that day and ask him some questions about injuries that were observed on him?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I asked him, I have a question, why, and then I point to my left knuckle, why is this red? He responds by saying that because of the cold. I asked him what happened there, and he said that he had a scratch, but he didn't exactly explain from where or how. The way it looked like he was acting as if there was nothing there, but I could clearly see there was a scratch. Mm-hmm. He pointed at it, and again, he doesn't really tell me how he got it. I asked him about another scratch on where his left wrist meets his left forearm. First he says, I don't have anything there, there's nothing there, and then he starts pointing at it again, saying that, oh, it's just a scratch. It looked like I could see there was still a little bit of pus in it. I could see that there was a scratch on his wrist.
Okay. The red knuckles to the bone. And the scratch over there is do you hit the face or anything?
I asked him, were you struck in the mouth? He responded to me that no, he was not struck in the mouth, and that it's the cold air on his lips, that he uses chapstick. I asked him to raise up his hair. I could see that there was a red mark going across. He explains to me that he wears a hat. I ask him what type of hat, and he motions over to Diego, who's sitting to the right of him, that it's a hat very similar to that one that was on Diego's head.
All 5 of the residents of this house go into federal custody due to the immigration issues, and whilst one of them is being interviewed, she identifies the man throwing away items in the dumpster video. She says, "That's Jose Ibarra." Throughout this conversation, it's learned that Diego and Jose shared quite a lot of things with one another. At times, Diego would use Jose's phone, seeing as his didn't work properly, and Jose would wear a lot of Diego's clothes, including his hat. They also slept together in the same bed. The investigation pours countless hours into tracking the movements of Jose and Diego on the day of the murder, and they're unable to link Diego at all to being anywhere near the crime scene. He says that he was asleep that morning when Jose got up early, and this is believed to be the truth, because he's not seen exiting the building on any ring cameras, or wandering the streets on any trail cameras or home surveillance. Jose, on the other hand, is a much different story. Upon looking into his cell phone data, detectives are able to pinpoint his location for the entire morning. They're confident that it was him using the phone and not Diego, because at 4:30 a.m., and then again at 5:37 a.m., Jose took 2 selfies and posted them to Snapchat. These were saved to his camera roll. In the later selfie, Jose can be seen wearing the exact clothes that match the individual who was caught on trail cameras, and who fit the description of multiple witnesses who saw a person skulking around the area that day. At the time and location where the Peeping Tom incident occurred, Jose's phone is located in the exact location where the individual is caught on camera. Furthermore, it can be tracked heading into the wooded area, and when the cell phone data from Laken's phone indicates that she went into the forest, both devices are pretty much on top of each other. When the individual disposing of the bloody jacket was caught on camera at 9:43 a.m., Jose's phone pings in this exact location. He's also spotted on ring camera, leaving his apartment half an hour after getting home. When he does this, he's wearing different clothes, and he's holding a bag. It's believed that he took this bag to the bins to dispose of evidence. When officers searched these specific bins, they didn't find anything. They learn that they had been emptied by trash collectors 45 minutes after Jose was seen throwing the bag away. What is of interest is that the clothing in question, the outfit Jose was wearing in his selfie, the very same outfit that he was wearing coming home the night before, it couldn't be located anywhere where he was living. Law enforcement believe that these items are what was thrown away and never recovered. The hat that Diego was wearing, which initially drew law enforcement attention, actually does belong to him, but he had been letting Jose wear it the previous few days. Using cameras from his work, Diego is tracked the day of, and the 3 days leading up to the murder. It can be observed that in all of these videos, Diego was never wearing the clothes in question, and not once had the hat on. The hat is sent away for testing, along with numerous other articles, the rocks and tree samples that had blood on them, the jacket found in the dumpster, skin found underneath Laken's nails, her phone, and the gloves that were found in the bushes. The rocks, tree, jacket, gloves and phone all had Laken's blood present, but on the jacket, additionally, Jose's DNA was also found. The hat had both Laken and Jose's DNA on it, and the gloves found in the bushes were positive for Jose's DNA. When detectives search Jose's home, they also find the exact same type of black gloves that were found in the bushes. To be certain that they're the same, they're also sent away for testing, and as expected, they come back as an exact match for the make of gloves that were found in the bushes. Laken's phone also had a big thumbprint on it, which came back a match for Jose. And most damning of all, the skin found underneath Laken's nails was Jose's DNA. In all of these instances, Diego's DNA was not found to be present anywhere. Laken was also wearing a Garmin watch at the time of her death. It was tracking her heart rate and movement speed while she went for her run. The data from this is analyzed, and it indicates that at 9:10 a.m. her speed drops to 0. Something had caused her to stop. At this point, the emergency SOS function on her device is activated, and she contacts 911. For the next 18 minutes, Laken fights until her heart rate drops to 0. Laken fought for her life, and law enforcement believe that injuries on Jose's body is proof of that. He had fresh scratches and bruising on his back, arms, front and back of his neck, and all over his hands. There's another article of evidence which is of great interest to detectives. If you recall, the individual who was spotted on trail camera footage, he was holding a white cup. When officers were searching the area, somewhere right near the middle of the apartment complex and where Laken's body was found, officers discovered a white styrofoam cup placed standing upright on the ground. They found this to be quite odd, seeing as trash is very uncommon throughout this area, and so it's collected, then sent off for testing. What's discovered is that the contents of the cup was alcohol, and Jose's DNA was present on a straw inside of it. With all of this evidence under their belt, the state takes Jose Ibarra to trial, with 10 counts against him, ranging from felony murder, aggravated assault with intent to sexually assault, kidnapping, and a charge of peeping Tom. Throughout the very short bench trial, everything you've heard in this video and more is used to try to prove Jose's guilt. Jose's argument in defense is that it wasn't him at all, but more than likely his brother Diego. They say that Diego was found wearing the hat that had Laken's blood on it, and even though Jose's DNA is present and Diego's is not, that doesn't prove anything, seeing as DNA testing can be unreliable, and the two brothers shared not only clothing, but a bed, so Jose's DNA could have easily gotten on there. The cell phone location data is compelling, but again, they say the state can't prove that it wasn't Diego using the phone. A month before the incident, they have proof that Diego had his email account set up on Jose's phone. And just because Jose took selfies of himself that day, no one can say that he didn't give his phone to Diego afterwards. On the straw inside the cup of alcohol, yes, Jose's DNA was present, but so was an unknown male. They argue that this could be Diego, and all this proves is that potentially, at the worst, Jose was out there that day, possibly assisting in covering up a murder that his brother had committed. A witness was brought to the stand who says he saw a strange man that fit the description of the suspect slinking around the area that day. The only problem with his testimony is that at the exact time he says he saw this person, it was right at the moment that someone was caught on camera disposing of the jacket in the dumpster. This is used to bolster the idea that possibly there were two people up to no good that day, and at worst, Jose should be charged with tampering with evidence and no more. This is what the state has to say about the defense's argument that Diego could be involved.
How many hours have you spent investigating the murder of Laken Riley?
Hundreds.
What about your colleagues who are working this case with you at the University of Georgia Police Department and at the FBI? How many hours have y'all worked?
It combined is thousands of man hours that have gone into this investigation.
And in the thousands of man hours that have gone into this case, have you been able to find any evidence that contradicts Diego Ibarra's statement that he was at home at the time?
I found no evidence to contradict the statement that he was at home at the time.
Is Diego's DNA underneath Laken Riley's fingernails?
No, ma'am.
Is Diego's DNA on the blue jacket that was found in the dumpster?
No, ma'am.
Is Diego's thumbprint on Laken Riley's phone?
No, ma'am.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
And the only way that Diego could have done this crime, and the only way that it could be even like a reasonable hypothesis that he could have done this crime, is if he had two things. Number one, magic pixie dust. He would need the magic pixie dust to put his brother's thumbprint on her phone. He would need the magic pixie dust to put his brother's DNA underneath Laken Riley's fingernails. And he would also, in addition to that, because of the video evidence, he would need one other thing. And that would be Harry Potter's invisible cloak. He would have to put that on and go to the iron fields and do these things because nobody sees him. We're done. Our work is done. And we turn this case over to you to make a decision on all of this evidence in this case. And we are asking you, in your decision, to render a verdict that speaks the truth about what happened that day, on the 22nd day of February, 2024, when this man took the life of an innocent woman, just going about her business, living her best life for no reason. It's senseless, and only you can end it. We're asking you to find him guilty of every single count in this indictment, to bring justice to Laken, her family, her friends, and your entire community here in Athens. Thank you, Ron.
After closing statements are concluded, the judge reaches his verdict.
In the state of Georgia versus Jose Antonio Ibarra, Case SU 24CR0323. Count 1, malice murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 2, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 3, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 4, felony murder. I find the defendant guilty. Count 5, kidnapping with bodily injury. I find the defendant guilty. Count 6, aggravated assault with intent to rape. I find the defendant guilty. Count 7, aggravated battery. I find the defendant guilty. Count 8, obstructing or hindering a 911 call. I find the defendant guilty. Count 9, tampering with evidence. I find the defendant guilty. Count 10, peeping Tom. I find the defendant guilty.
Jose Ibarra is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. It's at this point of the video that I've finished presenting the happenings of the trial, and will now focus on the victim, Laken Riley. As you may already know, Laken's death has been widely publicized and leans into a heated debate regarding immigration in the United States. I won't get too much into the details of this, but the reason for this is due to Jose Ibarra's status as an illegal immigrant. 26-year-old Jose from Venezuela entered the United States illegally September 2022. After crossing the border, he was picked up by federal authorities, but was allowed to go free as his case was being processed. He made his way to New York and lived in a migrant shelter. Here he was charged with acting in a manner to injure a child less than 17 and a driving violation. He got this for riding around on a motorized scooter with a minor and they didn't have helmets on. In this instance, he was released, and the man eventually catches a flight to Georgia where his brother lived. Jose's travel from New York to Georgia was paid for under a process known as reticketing. The state of New York at the time was dealing with a huge influx of migrants, and under this program, they purchased tickets to move individuals elsewhere. Whilst in Georgia, in October 2023, Jose, along with his brother, who has been accused of being affiliated with gangs, they're picked up for theft charges after being apprehended with stolen merchandise from a local Walmart. Both are released back to the public with a court date. Jose's day in court comes and goes, and he doesn't appear, leading to a bench warrant being put out for his arrest in December 2023. 2 months after this, Jose is involved in the murder of Laken Riley. This information has caused argument amongst many who have taken interest in the Laken Riley case. Some say the country as a whole is failing citizens by letting criminals who have illegally migrated run rampant and do as they please with little to no consequences. Whereas, on the other side, others feel that hate, fear and anger towards people who are seeking asylum only leads to more pain. Furthermore, there's another piece of the complicated puzzle, which sees many upset as they believe Laken's death is being used as a political wedge for politicians to gain votes. I won't dive into the details of all of this in much more depth, because I don't want to focus on the political discourse surrounding Laken's murder. I believe Laken's father sums up this whole thing best. Quote, "I think it's being used politically to get those votes. It makes me angry. I feel like, they're just using my daughter's name for that, and she was much better than that, and she should be raised up for the person that she is. She was an angel." End quote. The reason I brought all of it up, though, is because on January 29th, 2025, the Laken Riley Act came into effect. This act now requires that the US Department of Homeland Security is to detain illegal immigrants that are admitting to, charged with, or convicted of theft-related crimes, assaulting a police officer, or a crime that results in death or serious bodily injury, like drunk driving. Here is an excerpt from Laken's mother on the day that the act was introduced.
"There's no amount of change that will ever bring back our precious Laken. Our hope moving forward is that her life saves lives. We're so thankful that her passion for helping others and her legacy for doing good in the name of Jesus Christ will carry on. Thank you."
Laken's father also says, quote, Despite her name being brought up in a political context, I would rather think about how others remembered her at her funeral, where hundreds showed up to pay their respects." End quote. Laken's mother's family is also establishing a scholarship fund and a foundation to raise awareness of homicides and safety for young women. The Laken Hope Foundation supports existing organizations that promote safety awareness for women, aid and tuition assistance for nursing students, and children's healthcare. These were all causes that Laken felt strongly about, and she held near and dear to her heart. There is an immense amount of information out there regarding who Laken was and what she brought to the world. But I think, to get a greater understanding of what sort of person was taken, the best people to convey the essence of Laken's life are the ones who shared their victim impact statements during sentencing.
Laken Riley was my roommate for 2 years, my devoted and loyal running partner for 2 years, and my best friend forever. I've been impacted by this brutal, cowardice, and preventable tragedy in every way, shape, and form. I no longer have a best friend that I relay every thought or worry to. I no longer run every day. I cannot imagine running when I constantly am looking over my shoulder in public, wondering if I am next. I live with excruciating guilt every day that I was not accompanying Laken on this run, and that it was her and not me. And I hope and pray that it will never happen again to anyone. Along with this, the crime that this monster committed ruined one of the most special places in our friendship. Lake Herrick was Laken and I's safe space. We loved to go on running adventures throughout the park together. We had a code called dock time. Dock time consisted of either ending our runs or taking a calming walk to the dock at Lake Herrick. Here we would sit in silence, play music, or talk while sitting on the dock, simply enjoying each other's presence. All it took was a text saying, "I need dock time," and we were on the way to debrief whatever we needed to discuss. Now, when I think of this beautiful spot, I think of the terror and horror my sweet best friend had to endure at the hands of this monster. I lost faith in humanity the day that my kind, selfless, beautiful, smart, loving, and perfect best friend left this earth. I will never understand why it had to happen in the first place, but more importantly, why out of all people it had to be her. The world lost a girl who would take the clothes off her back for her family, friends, and even strangers, who studied and devoted her life to Christ and nursing so she could save lives and make a difference in this world. Laken made this world, and more specifically my world, better. My first 2 years of college, when I did not know Laken, I went home all the time. My last 2 years of college, you had to drag me home. That was because Laken was my person. So, Your Honor, I wish to proclaim the maximum sentence for the defendant, as I will never be the same, her loving, beautiful family will never be the same, and this world will never be the same.
Laken was the most driven student with the biggest heart of anyone I think I ever will meet. As roommates, we got to spend a whole lot of time together. We had our family dinners that were strictly chili. We watched Dancing with the Stars every Tuesday. We had almost daily Starbucks runs, which I hoped to do that morning when I checked her location around the time she took her final breaths. We'd often get to a point at least once a week where we'd get emotional, thinking about what life is going to be like once we graduated. Laken held a place in all of our imaginary futures. Now Sophia, Connolly, and I graduated in May, required to move on with our lives, while Laken can't. We have the privilege to get jobs and move to an exciting new city to experience post-grad life, but Laken doesn't. Shortly after Laken's death, I had to come back to UGA to finish my classes without Laken and without the safe space that we built together, and it was awful. Every time I wanted to go somewhere, I had to drive by the apartments that provided a roof over his head while he got to rip away ours. Life without Laken has been so dull, and having to learn how to navigate time without her through grief, anger, and fear has been beyond difficult. So many people are lost without her. Laken made her short time on Earth so significant that she managed to impact those who she never even met. Laken left a colossal legacy to everyone she touched, and I have zero doubt that she is still not finished building it. And that is something Jose Ibarra will never be able to take away. I hope to never say his name again,
but to shout Laken's every chance I get. Laken was my fearless other half. As someone who's reserved and awkward, Laken was always there to nudge me to step out of my comfort zone. She would pull me onto the dance floor and encourage me to try new things and remind me to live life to the fullest. I trusted her completely, and I always knew she was there for me as I was for her. Those small, precious pieces of life that we once took for granted are now reminders of what I've lost. Laken taught so many people in her life invaluable lessons. She showed me how to find joy in every moment, how to embrace life with an open heart, and how to dance in a crowded room without caring what anyone else thought. These lessons will stay with me forever. We will never again hear the joy of her laughter, feel the warmth of her smile, or find peace in the sound of her voice. The loss of Laken has left a hole in our hearts that can never be filled. The monster who took Laken's life has clearly never known love, like the love Laken showed everyone in her life. Love that was boundless, love that was a testament to the amazing person she was. A world Laken taught me to embrace is now a world I feel unsafe in. Every day I put on a brave face as I step into my classroom, ready to teach and support my students. I mask my emotions and fears to shield them from the harsh realities of the world, preserving their sense of security and innocence in the world. Yet inside, I'm struggling. Laken's legacy of love, kindness, and friendship will live in all of us who knew her. The love she gave so freely will continue to guide me as I navigate this life without her.
And one of the things I wanted to share with the court is that a lot of times when we hear victim impact evidence, it is very much so the way that we hear it here in court. But what we have in this case is something that I ran across in my review of the evidence in this case. 1 minute of when or where this court will be able to get the true impact of what the murder of Laken Riley did to her family. What the investigators did in this case is, as you know, they were all wearing body cam videos. And I'm just going to play 1 minute of it, just 1 minute of the horror that this family has gone through in the last 9 months and what they're going to continue to go through for the rest of their lives. And it is the moment that they learned that their daughter was dead.
Our daughter is late. Our daughter is late. It's my daughter. Okay, let's step over here. Come on, let's go. Come on. Come over here, all right? All right. Come on the road. Come on the road. It's not good.
My precious daughter was attacked, beaten, and shown no mercy. She fought for her life and dignity and to save herself from being brutally raped. Laken had a beautiful and bright future. She was smart, hardworking, kind, thoughtful, and most importantly, she was a child of God. She shared her love for our Lord with others through her mission trips, working with elderly at the nursing homes, and through her nursing career. Laken was an amazing friend, sister, niece, daughter, and granddaughter. Anyone who knew her knew about her loving heart. Laken's life was not the only life taken on that day that Jose Ibarra attacked her. The life of her family and friends was taken too. None of us will ever be the same. This monster took away our chances to see Laken graduate from nursing school. He took away our ability to meet our future son-in-law. He destroyed our chances of meeting our grandchildren. And he took my best friend. He He ripped away every beautiful memory we will ever be able to make with her again. This horrific individual robbed us all of our hopes and dreams for Laken. He showed no mercy on Laken when she was begging for her life. There's no end to the pain and suffering that he inflicted on our family and our friends. My precious daughter was attacked, beaten, and shown no mercy. She fought for her life and dignity and to save herself from being brutally raped. This sick, twisted, and evil coward showed no regard for Laken or human life. We are asking that same be done to him.
Not being in Athens that day will forever haunt me. Finding out through an email will forever haunt me. And seeing this posted all over social media will forever haunt me. Laken Riley was my best friend, the person I told everything to, and the person I trusted with anything. The pain of the last 9 months has been indescribable. If you would have asked me a year ago where I thought I'd be and what I would do in 2024, I'd tell you I'd be finishing up my second to last semester of college with Laken as my roommate as she finishes nursing school. But instead, I get to tell you how different my year was. I get to tell you that I can't do anything by myself anymore, even in broad daylight. I get to tell you that a town I used to love being in just fills me with dread. That everywhere I go just reminds me of places we used to hang out and go on walks to. I tell you that I can't go past her old house and haven't been able to return to the IM field since. I tell you the weight of emptiness I feel when I still go to text her sometimes. My reality is that she is not here, and that because of what this animal did, we have sat here all week hearing every fraction of evidence and reliving the worst days of our life on repeat. I know nothing will bring her back, even though I so badly wish it would, but justice would bring comfort to us all. No one who can take away such a light and sweet soul deserves to walk free ever again. The death of my best friend has changed my life forever.
My name is Lauren Phillips, and I had the amazing privilege of living with Laken Riley as my older sister. Laken was and will forever be my most favorite person. She was my biggest role model, and I looked up to her in every way. She brought the joy that I needed into my life and never failed to make me laugh. There was absolutely nothing that I wouldn't do for Laken, and nothing that she wouldn't do for me. Laken was my biggest protector, and I always had this sense of comfort and safety in her presence. We have been inseparable ever since the moment I was born, and I've been lost ever since she was senselessly stripped from our lives by Jose Antonio Ibarra. I now have this hole in my heart and in my life that I know will never be filled. We were once a happy family of 4, and now there is an evident hole where her presence is forever felt. We are a broken family of 3, struggling to find out how to live this life through the silence and emptiness that her absence has left behind. The joy that she brought to our home has been completely replaced with grief, and we are just left holding the pieces of a life that will never feel whole again. I think about how my sister saw exactly what was coming and had no way of preventing it. I think about how scared she must have been and how that man is the only one to truly witness that scene. I'm not sure why he did this to my Laken, and I know I will never understand. I've waited for him to have a reason, but as the details of this case have unfolded, I realize I'll never get any peace or closure. What Jose Ibarra did to my sister is almost unbearable to listen to. I am completely disgusted having to even look and be in the same room as him. That predator is inhumane and is the epitome of evil.
Your Honor, I stand here today as a grieving father whose heart was shattered in ways I never thought possible. My daughter, Laken Riley, was not just our child. She was the light of my life, the person who brought joy to every room she entered. And now that light has been extinguished forever, taken from us in the most senseless and violent way imaginable. I will never hear her laugh again, never see her smile, never hold her hand or feel her hug. She was taken from us, from her family, from her friends, from her future. Our world has been torn apart, and no matter what happens here today, nothing will ever bring her back. I am haunted by the thought of the fear she must have felt in those final moments, and it breaks my heart knowing that she suffered. I have to live with the fact that I could not protect her when she needed me the most. The pain of not being there, of not being able to stop what happened to her, is something I will never escape. My daughter had so many dreams, so many hopes for the future. She had worked so hard to become a nurse, to work with children and spread the love of God. She was a loving, kind, and intelligent young woman. She had so much to offer the world, and her life was taken from her far too soon.
I heard in the opening statements from the defense that the loss of a life that was apparently full of promise is tragic. Well, I'm here today to let Your Honor and the entire world know that Laken's life was not apparently full of promise, but instead was abundantly and exceptionally full of promise, and was a shining beacon in the life of everyone that knew her, that ever came in contact with her. I'm so proud of Laken and the beautiful person she was. And while I could stand here and try to tell the world the things that made her such a wonderful person, as well as the many things we have all been robbed and deprived of, I think one of her last journal entries dated 12/17/23 says it best. To my future husband. As silly as I feel writing this, my old small group leader once recommended it, so here I am. To my future husband, I want you to know that I'm thinking about you. I'm working every day to become the best wife I can be. By working through my current relationships to best prepare me for ours and our kids one day. I can't wait to love you in the best way I know how for the rest of our lives. I pray you know and feel the importance of my love and hopes for our relationship. No matter what challenges we face, I pray that our trust in God and love for one another overrules the obstacle. May our relationship last forever. Your future wife, Laken. That, Your Honor, was our beautiful Laken. That, Your Honor, is just a glimpse of what was tragically and brutally taken from her and us that day. The best daughter, sister, granddaughter, friend, and overall person that you could ever hope to meet. While it's true that none of our lives will ever be the same, we refuse to let this person rob Laken of the hope she gave to her family, loved ones, friends, and the world as a whole. We will proudly carry this hope on in her name in the days ahead and for the rest of our lives, because together we can all keep hope alive.